Okay, picking up where we left off with Earth Engine in the code editor. One thing you can do with code is save it out into a JS file like this, and just like a notepad or something, and then you get, a backup copy of it, and I suggest that. But I'm going to be taking from this and just talking through some of this code. So getting back into our example here, we're going to add a point, and here it's not showing, but we're going to add a point here. And this, when we hit this center object, you see how it's centering on where the coordinates are. The other way to do that, of course, is to add the point using the add marker tool that we did on the previous video. But I want to focus on some of the code here. So if you remember, we had a spatial filter. So let's take a look at that. When we run that, we get 241 possible records at that point for the data set of Landsat 8 top of atmosphere data set. So then we can actually go into using so that's a spatial filter, limit things spatially, and then we can limit things temporally. So for this, we're going to look at the whole year of 2015 and take a look at what we get back from that. So now we see this over here in the console, and we get 21 elements across 17 possible bands. So we went from 241 to 21 by limiting it to just that year of 2015. So here's the thing to think about. Now, what if we said, instead of the whole year, we're like, let's just take it from 2015-01 to 2015-01-02. What if we did that? What could happen? Well, if we went on and ran our code, we'll notice what happens is we get 0 records. And I'm going to go ahead and comment out this print for now, just so we can focus on the fact that we're getting 0 records here. Let's comment that out too. And moving on, if we're going to try to actually go through and do the cloud sort, we're going to sort by the cloud cover and then add it to the map. We're doing that on a record set, a data set that's empty. And so we might run into some problems because, as you notice, we're going to attempt to sort temporal filtered, which is a record set of 0, and then we're going to attempt to add whatever we get back as a scene onto the map. Here, long story short, we're going to get an error. So we need to do some type of check. And, intuitively, you might, if you've done any JavaScripting or you've been reading about JavaScript, you might think, well, okay, we could check the size of this filter to see what comes back to, we could do this. We could say, what if temporal filter size, because we know that's a method we could call on temporal filter. What if temporal filter size is 0? Then, or is greater than 0. Then we will do this. Otherwise, we'll just skip over it. That's how the if statement check works. It's a Boolean. If this is true, then do all this stuff within here. So this has to be greater than 0. So let's see if we do that. it does nothing, right? So it does nothing, which is kind of what we wanted to do, but don't be fooled, because let's change this back to the whole year now. Back to, and I actually like to do this. I like to use multiple variables here to like kind of go back and forth. And so what you can do is like just have the same variable, but we'll have different temporal ranges. So now we're back to the whole year, right? So we know that the size is going to be greater than 0. And hypothetically, it should go into here. Because the thing is, it's not going into here. So when we do that, yay, it appears to pull back our data. But take a look at here. What's going on? It's not doing anything. It's not adding anything to the map. This is a key concept in this idea of cloud computing and computing with APIs that are doing work on a server remotely and then returning the data. And they have this discussion about client versus server, and we have some of that in my lecture notes. So what's going on is this is a client-side check, meaning in the browser on my machine, it's checking. But the thing is, this sort of, the EE, anytime you see EE, and then, you know, we're by variable linking back to that, things are occurring over there on the server, on the Google servers. So this really can't check for something that's on a server. So we have to do the way you do this in the cloud world, and then specifically in this Google Earth Engine world, and you know it would be the same in other cloud or software as a service environments, is we need to use their functions available, and in this case we could use EE filter, not null. So if we take a look at that function is here, this is how they recommend to actually do this server-side check. Returns a filter that passes if all the named properties are not null. Okay? So let's try that out. So when we run that, oh yeah, I'm trying to style this, so let's get rid of this for now. And then we'll get back to that. Oh wait. Sorry. We're just going to add the scene for now. Oops. So we just add the scene. I'll get back to that in a second. So here we actually do, it works. You know, it came back that the filter is not null, which is another way to say empty in programming speak. And null is important because null is different than 0. Null is literally often described as like really the truly nothing value, whereas 0 is not, it is a value. It has mathematical meaning. But null is like the object is empty. So think about it that way. So this worked, and we added the tile, the actual satellite image, onto the map. Yay! It doesn't look great because it's just literally a black and white image of Landsat data. So we could, you know, and that's not that big a deal for the purposes of this class at this point, you know, because we've already done a lot to get here, and I don't think we need to get too much further than that. But I did want to show you that you could add in some styling. So the way you would do that is you would create a variable, var variable, that has some of the styling that is available within Google's JavaScript API format. And so now we have this variable called viz parameters. And then that would go, when you add the layer, that would be, that's what that part I removed earlier was from. So when you add the layer, you can actually pass in the styling parameter, and then this is just a label. So we could do this, and we can get the false color image, which is useful. You can see the actual band associated colors to the band 5, 4, and 3, it looks like. And that's stretched along a min and max using these gamma values. So, you could look at this function here to get a bit more information on how I did that. So you can see, anytime you see, like in a programming language documentation, this is Python, JavaScript, usually when you see it italics like this, that will mean that these parameters are optional. This is the only thing that's really required, the actual EE object, which, is our scene in this case. But then we could pass in some visual parameters. We could even tell it what's the opacity, and so here's a couple more examples of that in the documentation. You don't really need to focus on that at this point in this class. Like as I said, we've done a lot here to get to this point, but I think it's useful to know this. So with that will be all I'll cover in this final lecture on Google Earth Engine.